Hello, everyone. I am Kim with Abundant Life Tarot, and you are joining me today for Taste Change Has Yours. This is a lecture as a part of a course that I created called Choosing Your Next Deck, Curating Your Collection. So I have a fun hour for us. So I will just give it a couple of minutes to see if there's folks wanting to come on in. Let's see, I see we have some folks waiting in. Make sure you say admit. Hello, hi everyone. And I just realized that I'm like, okay, I have us all now. Maybe not all of you want to be featured, so hey. But if not, just I guess hit your go. What is it? Go invisible. Or I guess I could just have it just focused on me. But it's fun sometimes when we can have a dialogue and a conversation about the topic at hand. So that's why I like to have folks on here with me as well. All right. So I'm excited. Taste change. So this particular lecture is probably more designed for those who have been collecting for a moment. This course that I've created is, yes, for the new collectors that come to decks or come to deck collecting. However, this particular piece is speaking to those who have been collecting a while, and maybe you've been shopping for decks for a while and you constantly feel like you're trying to scratch an itch and you're not quite sure why. And even when you get that deck, even when it comes into your mailbox, you're already itching for another one. What is that about? So I decided to take a closer look at that phenomenon. And so that's what we're doing today. It's taking a closer look. And that's what really this course is all about. It's all about awareness, really taking a closer look at why we do what we do and to see if it's in alignment with where we're really trying to go or what we're trying to be. All right, so a couple of things here before we get started is if you have any questions, you could definitely unmute yourself, chime in and ask the question, or you can put it in the chat. And when I pause for a moment, I'll peruse the chat to see if there's any questions there. All right, so let's get on started. So the first thing and most important thing that I need to share with new and seasoned collectors is that there is nothing wrong with you, and it's perfectly okay to collect decks, and it's perfectly okay that our tastes change. You know, we are human beings, and it comes with the territory that over time we evolve, and there go our tastes also evolve. But oftentimes, I think that what we do is we try to stick to an original script. We try not to deviate or change course, when in actuality, our sense of self, some of us believe our soul, our higher self, is whispering to us, saying, hey, take a look at this, take a closer look. And that's probably when the trouble starts, at least for me personally. Okay, I've been collecting decks for a while now, just a little while, definitely for the last 3 years strong. And so I noticed that I had that insatiable itch. So when that trouble starts, what happens is we begin to resist the inner callings to shift in our collecting habits. And we refuse to change or to listen or pause and see what's going on. And over time, we may secretly shop for more decks, Likely decks that fit our old taste profile and not necessarily decks that are really speaking to the new taste that is evolving inside of us. And, you know, another thing that may be shifting, not just your deck taste, but your tarot practice, your oracle reading practice, that may also be shifting and changing as well. So it may not even just be your deck collecting habits, but more importantly, it could be that there's a shift in the way that you are reading the tarot for others, or maybe you are moving into a different form of types of readings. Maybe for a while you were doing hotline, you know, broken heart readings, and over time you're starting to shift and you're starting to move towards decks that really speak to life purpose readings. That's just an example, but it's a symptom. When you are constantly itching for new decks, it's not because you're a shopaholic or because you have no control. It is likely because there is something trying to be told and conveyed to you to take a look. That's it. That's it. Oh, hold on. I just realized I wish that I didn't set it up where it's a waiting room. I just wanted my folks to come in, and I thought I had pre-selected that I didn't want people to wait in the waiting room. So my apologies if you were waiting in the waiting room for a moment. I'll make sure I pay attention to that. So this lesson is designed to explore how to know when it's happening that our tastes are in fact changing and why it's happening. We kind of touched upon that in the introduction here, and what to do about it. I like to break my lectures down into who, what, when, where, and why to make sure I cover all the bits that I wish to cover. I will be sharing screens over the next hour to show you my spreadsheet, to show you, you'll start to see an evolution from 2017 to 2021 of my deck collecting purchases, not collecting purchases. And I'll show you some decks as well, because they're a perfect example. And I want to invite you to have your deck handy, because we're going to be asking our deck, or ourselves, if you don't have your deck handy, that's fine too. Or if you want me to throw a card for you, I'm happy to do so. We'll do it quickly. But we'll be asking the cards some questions over the next hour as well. All right, so I mentioned this before. Who is this targeted for? Who is this particular lecture speaking to? Really any deck collector, new or old, but it really is for those who have been collecting for a little bit, or, you know, just has a few decks under their belt. New deck collectors can certainly benefit from this lesson, I should say, because they can benefit from the whole course. But yeah, this is for my seasoned peeps. So we've talked quite a bit about the who, all of you. Now the first question I want to ponder is, has my taste changed? And if so, in what way? So this is where you would pull out your deck and shuffle, if you have your deck available, or you can ask me to shuffle a card for you. I have a ton of decks on my table here. I'm happy to do it for you. Oh, we got someone waiting in the waiting room. My apologies. I wish I could change the setting now. Welcome to those who are just joining me, by the way. I'm super excited that you're here. So we're going to pull out our decks. And I already, to save time, I shuffled the cards last night and got my card to this question. Y'all know that I work with jumpers. I only exclusively work with jumping cards when I'm shuffling my cards. So it could take a while. So that's why I went ahead and did my homework last night. The card that I got was the 10 of Wands. Let me make sure you guys can see this. This is from the deck, The Uncommon Tarot by Shaheen Miro. And I thought this card definitely is speaking to where I'm at in my taste with my collection and just my collecting habits in general. And I made some notes based off of what the keywords were from this cool little guidebook. Where is it? I like the guidebook in here. It's little, but it packs a lot. This one. So some of the 10 of Wands keywords were perseverance, burden, great difficulties at the last minute. And yeah, that's me in my collection. And I'm curious to know, please share as well. Please feel free to share what card comes up for you about the question. Let me make sure I repeat that again. I wish I could type it here. But the question is, has my taste changed? And if so, in what way? Some of you know that I made the decision to move and relocate to the Dominican Republic. But way before that, I realized I was going on a journey that led me to that point, including in my deck collecting habits. And the key word that struck out for me the most is, or two of them, burden and great difficulties at the last minute. I had so many decks, you guys, that even after selling giving away, selling, and donating about 37 decks, I still had a lot of decks to do what I needed to do. My collection is now splintered everywhere. I was able to bring maybe 25 decks with me, and my suitcases were so heavy, so burdensome, that I'm pretty sure that the TSA people and customs people were like, what the hell are you doing? What's happening here? And that was 25 decks. And it was like, and those, it was easy for me to pick those decks because those are my working decks. Those are the decks that I'm using when I'm doing tarot readings for clients. But then the rest of my decks are on a boat somewhere, hopefully coming through here. One of the large packs that I sent is stuck in customs already. I didn't even realize about the whole customs situation, you all. So learning the hard way on that. And then there's about 5 like crates like this of this size, like at my parents' house, that they're holding for me until I can make my way back to the United States to go through my decks and do the painstaking job of looking at, are you still in alignment with my taste? And I'm excited about that part of it because I think that having some distance from a lot of my cards and a lot of my decks will help me get more in tune with the decks that I really am called to use. And it'll be so easy for me that while I'm staying with my parents, I'm probably going to stay with them probably for a month or so when I do go back to visit. It'll give me time to sell some decks, to give away some decks, and to make arrangements for the rest of them to come home with me to the Dominican Republic. But it made me realize it's super burdensome to have a bunch of decks that I don't even know if I'm in love with them anymore. And they were so expensive because there are a lot of independently produced decks that it was just like, I can't just give them away. I can't just donate them. I can't, So I'm trying to prevent folks from going through the challenges I go through continuously with my collection and my collecting habits. That's why I do this. So my tastes also have changed because I've gone on a journey, and I've noticed that from the time that I first started collecting decks, and we'll look at the spreadsheet, I'll share the screen, to now, the progression has been that I went from like mass market, right? Then I went through a couple of years of, I got to have independently produced decks. Then now I'm in a phase of, I want decks that are created by individuals, even if they don't make them to sell. I want decks that a friend has made and then gifts to me. It's just a loving gift, not even one that's sold or anything like that. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But I'm curious to know, before I share screens, what card, and you can feel free to share it in the chat. Hi, Jennifer. It's okay. I'll see you when you get back. I want to hear from you. What card comes up for you for the question, has my taste changed? And if so, in what way? And even if you just have a card and you haven't had a chance to think about it, you can pop it in the chat, or you can say it. You can take yourself off mute and you can chime in on what card is that, and then journal about it later. I'm going to be doing some more sitting with the Ten of Wands, some more, because I want to even go even deeper on what it means as far as my taste change. Okay, so Julie says that she got the Wheel of Fortune, which is fitting. And I could just imagine with the Wheel of Fortune. And bonus points for you, Julie, if you explain why you think it's fitting. The Wheel of Fortune, probably the season, if you're in a certain season of your collecting, you know, the Wheel of Fortune could be about an up fortune or a down, a shift or a change, you know, and it could mean a myriad of things, I suppose. So yeah,
I can. I can speak a little bit more to that. Yeah, so it's definitely, as you say, Kim, it's very much kind of like this up and this down, changing and then kind of reverting back. So one day it'll be like, oh, I'm done with cute. Screw cute. I want dark and dirty decks. And then, oh, it's back to, oh no, I want cute again. I want the cute, soft, adorable decks. And so I think it's almost like I'm in these moods that kind of swing up and down, and it's kind of cyclical. So I thought this card was appropriate.
That is appropriate, and a beautiful explanation, by the way. That is. And just even knowing that awareness, right? Even if you're in that phase, because sometimes we're in the, what I call, there is the accumulation phase, the gathering of your decks phase, and then there's the phase where some of us find ourselves where we're shedding some decks and we're, you know, moving them along to other homes. We're downsizing, and then sometimes we're upsizing. Whatever, you know, wherever you're at, it's just nice to know that you where your tastes are and what it's doing. It's just that the awareness will help you in your next purchase, right? Your next procurement of another deck. So thank you, Julie, for sharing. That was perfect. Perfect. And then we have someone from the comments section. Let's see. Oh, and Jennifer says, that's my card of the week. Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay, so she's good. Oh, she's cold. I'm hot over here, y'all. I'm sweating. I'm still getting used to the change of weather. So I don't know. Dare I say I envy you for needing to thaw out as I swelter away, Jennifer? Let's see. Hazel says she got the Queen of Wands and always thinks of herself as the performer. Yes. Okay, yes, I think showing decks on my YouTube channel, which is new in the past year, has changed how I engage with decks. Oh my God, that is so, and that's another season that we would find ourselves in. I think too, I have to forgive myself sometimes about, oh, I gained all these decks. Well, I was starting out a new YouTube channel at the time. I adore unboxings. I adore doing them. I adore watching them, not as much anymore since it's so difficult to get my current decks here. And it's just kind of difficult to get a deck here, but that's neither here nor there. But that is another reason. And the Queen of Wands, you know, putting yourself out there, being passionate about this endeavor of YouTube and sharing with others and sharing that creative passion, that is very much informing your deck collecting purchases or procurements of your decks. So right on. Let's see what else we got. Okay, tiny trinkets and things, Scott. Tiny trinkets. I like trinkets. Okay. Okay, let me see. She got the Hermit. The Hermit is an interesting one. That's what I kind of expected myself to get, but no, I think the Ten of Wands is like apropos for me. Yeah. So Julie, thank you for the question to Angela. So does that mean for you going deeper as the Hermit card? Does that mean that you've been going deeper with your cards? just kind of working with the cards, the collection you have, or maybe it speaks to the type of cards you are getting in your collection. Okay, let's see. Oh, she was having internet issues. Okay, I understand that too. Island life. Ooh, Mariah says Ace of Cups. Okay, she's learning to let her emotions choose. Nice. Not necessarily based on aesthetics. And that helps not regret later. Yes, we'll talk about that in a moment. Because the decks that evoke feelings keep me engaged. And I think time and time again, many of us agree with that. But let me tell you, when you're in that phase of, I just want to shop for decks, that goes out the window, it seems. I don't know why it goes out the window for me, but I lose sight of it. And so again, I like to slow down a minute and just say, let me get back to what I love. What is it that I always want to be called to pull and grab? All right, and then my friend Jennifer says she got the 8 of Cups and Knight of Wands. Ooh, 8 of Cups. Ooh, and Knight of Wands. Oh, I like that you got 2 cards, and that's completely okay because it's speaking to maybe what's going on, with the 8 of Cups kind of moving forward. And then the Knight of Wands actively moving towards decks that you're really passionate about, letting go, pushing off some, and of course, as tarot readers, we can interpret these all day, right? And it's kind of personal when it's this kind of question, but it's so interesting. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all so much for sharing that. That's fun. All right. So we're moving on. We got the who down. Let's move on to the what. So now we're going to share screens looking at my ridiculous spreadsheets. I've shown those in the past on my channel. And I'm sad to look at them, I'll be honest with you, because my decks are splintered all over I feel like, the continent. It's kind of painful to look at them because I honestly don't know what the hell is going on with my decks right now. I know where a few of them are. They're in my closet. The rest of them, and I know it's just sad. But I want to show you a progression over time. So let me share screens. Let's go here and share. So now what we're looking at is the spreadsheets that I have here. And starting in the beginning of 2017 is when I really started tracking my purchases, because I started realizing, I got a few decks here. I for some reason, I was like, let me just start tracking them. I'm glad I did. But what I'm mad at myself for now is that before the move, I ran out of time, and I would have kind of put a column next to here, or at least in the comments saying what happened to them. Where are they? Are they on the ship on their way from the United States to the DR? Are they sitting in my parents' spare bedroom, or are they with me? Hindsight's 2020, right? All right, so let's just start here. We'll just kind of pop through a few. I'll just kind of hit and highlight a few. So we have Centennial. That's a given. Centennial Waite Smith, classic. I had the Morgan Greer. That one was probably, it's not on the list here because I had it before I started tracking it. But you can see the sun and moon. Oh, that's why I love this deck so much. And you see that we're looking at mass market. We have Triple Goddess. I put the Bone Stone here when I actually purchased it. I don't do it that way anymore. I actually have a pre-order tab now. But you can see the Numinous Tarot is when I did my first Kickstarter. Kickstarter, for those who don't know, is a online way of being able to back or support independent artists who are creating decks. A crowdfunding, I guess you call it crowdfunding. And so I love Kickstarter. And I've had success with Kickstarter. And the Numinous was my first, I believe. Got the Stretch, Cosmic Tribe, Cosmic Tarot. So I'm just kind of showing you The Delta Enduring. So, and if you look at the year, so about end of 2017, I was like, oh, the Delta Enduring Tarot, which is out of print. And I was like, oh, wow, this is addicting. And maybe I was collecting decks, maybe not so much for the right reasons after this point in this phase between 2018 and 2019, because I was like, I want all the decks that other folks are desiring. Weird, I know. And I don't do that no more. I've changed, but I'm going to be real with you so you kind of understand like the journey. We have the Fountain, Mass Market, and then we start going into the Textured Tarot, the Moonchild, Santa Martino, the Light Seers, and the Muse. Now, ironically enough, I only use the Mass Market Light Seers and never touch my independently produced one for a variety of reasons. And some would probably argue that maybe my taste has started to go back to mass market, but as you'll see, got the Dream Keepers. There's a nice, like a healthy dose of both mass market and indie. But what made me stay up at night shopping and waking up in the middle of the night to go online, to go on Etsy or Kickstarter, was obviously independently produced decks, because I like supporting artists, independently produced decks because of that. But when the budget was low, and I could tell during certain times of the year, I went towards mass market. So here's my tarot collection. And it ends with, I'm going to just show you here, down here, the field tarot. We had a discussion in our Facebook group about whether or not I'm going to like the field tarot when it finally lands here from the United States to the Dominican Republic. It's still on a boat. We'll see when it gets here. It'll be funny to see if I do connect with it or not. The tarot spread that I did to determine if I should even add it to my collection had mixed reviews. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I mentioned to you all before about how I like decks that are now created homegrown. And that's because I started last year making my own Oracle decks, and out of just stock photos and on makeplayingcards.com, just, you know, my own decks, because I read tarot for others. When I have decks like this, I really connect with them because it's images that I picked. Also, I have friends who gifted me a deck that I feel connected to. That's not sold, at least that I'm not aware of it. I could be wrong, but like this one, the Black Lives Matter tarot, that a friend of mine's created. Some of you all probably know Queen of Wands on Instagram. And I haven't unboxed it, I just haven't had a chance to publish it yet. And I've had this deck for a while. But for some reason, that's where I'm at right now. And I'm going to do some more work to explore why that is. But that resonates with me more so than any of the decks that I have in my collection, for example. So I've rambled on. I have another tab here. Oracle is the same. Oracle, I go straight crazy over. As you can see, I have way more Oracle, 99 allegedly. I sold some, I haven't taken them off yet. More so than tarot. Oracle, I like Oracle decks. I like Oracle a lot. And then where's my little Lenormand, paltry little list of Lenormand that it looks like I was going hard for Lenormand in 2018. That was part of my taste, where I was like, I need a new system. I want to explore a new way of reading the cards. Let's explore Lenormand. So 2018, it was all about Lenormand. And it was like spring of 2018. And then I got one deck gifted to me, the Enchanted Lenormand, by my son's daughter's mother. And that was it for Lenormand. So my tastes have been all over the place, but where I saw it change immensely was after my depth year. So I did a depth year in 2020, and I wasn't really allowing myself to really buy decks. So I started creating decks, and so did some of my friends. And then next thing you know, my taste started shifting towards decks that are like handmade, created, not for public use. So yeah, so that's the evolution of my collection. And now I don't know where I'm at because like I said, I probably am going to be like a schoolgirl, like squealing when the ship finally brings in my old decks. And I'll probably be like, oh gosh, I'm in love with those again. We'll see though. I'm hoping that there's some growth and evolution inside of me that could be able to say, actually, there's people probably on this island who could benefit from some of these decks, and I'm going to share them. So we'll see. I rambled along enough. Do we have any questions so far? I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Let's see. Okay. Okay. All right. Also, I wanted to mention that, yeah, as far as specific types of decks, I started to notice over time that I gravitate towards contemporary art, modern depictions of, you know, the tarot, for example. And collage style decks. You'll notice some tarot YouTubers who likes Marset, or they like, you know, that old, the old style tarot that never spoke to me ever, never. I love when my clients get tickled when they see an image that they can relate to and they point out something that's like pretty much spot on in the meaning of the tarot card. And I don't tell them I get all secretly tickled, but I do. So contemporary has always been something I've been drawn to, even as a kid. When other people were like oohing and ahhing over like old, like ancient art, I wasn't. I was oohing and ahhing over like contemporary artists. That's just me. We all have personal tastes. But that's always been a consistent throughout my whole collection. So it was interesting when I was creating this course to be able to see that trend as well. And I invite you to take a look at your decks and see, because if you start to notice that you're all of a sudden making a detour towards Marseille and you never have before, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that. Actually, it could be just a signal that you're moving on to something else, but it also could be like sometimes in some of my friends' cases, and even once or twice in my case, I'm just itching. I'm itching because I'm not focusing on what's really going on deep down inside as to why I'm gravitating towards those decks. Ooh, let's see, we have comments. We have comments. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, Queen of Wands is awesome. She is awesome. Just adore her. Okay, Oracle decks are not really for you. Okay, I love this. So I'm coming to the conclusion, this is a comment from the chat, that Oracle decks are not really for me, even though I really want them to be. And I think that's how I felt about Lenormand, to be honest. I really wanted Lenormand to be for me. And it's not that I can't read them. I can. It's just they're not for me, clearly. But knowing that is important. So I don't go wasting money and time and whatnot on them. Let's see. Okay, nice. I'm almost the opposite. Historically, I didn't like Oracle decks. I think I was being elitist. I like that, like they're not esoteric enough. Oh, but you like my style of combining Oracle with Tarot. Thank you. Let's see. I get drawn to new Oracle systems because they're shiny and interesting, but it's hard to have the time to get to really know so many different setups. Yes, that is the truth. And that's the thing with Oracle that I think drew me to them as well, is that they can have their own little systems, right? As opposed to Tarot. But if you don't have a lot of time, they're going to sit on your shelf for a while. So I always just give people a tip that before you explore a new system, whether it's Oracle or whatever system, don't beat yourself up if you don't get to it right away, but just know that probably the next purchase, probably pause on any new systems. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's see. We have I combine tarot and oracle, always have. Isn't it fun? And of course, charms and trinkets as well. I think that's so cool. To combine like the charms and trinkets. I'm so fascinated with that. I'm not going to learn the new system yet till I get myself together with my collection, but I may come to you and come to your channel, Tiny Trinkets and Tarot, to learn a little bit more about that. Yeah, but yeah, so just the awareness of it all is important. Let's see. So let me make sure I stay on topic. All right. So my collection at some point has swollen up to about 280 decks. And then the death year occurred, and that helped me to slow down, but people were still giving me decks in 2020. But yeah, it was that pause with my death year that helped me to realize that I may not have been collecting in the most healthiest way for myself. And that was a tough pill to swallow, because I love being in tarot groups and like being like, yes, let's get that deck. But then after a while, I was like, oh gosh, look what I've done. I have all these decks. And now look what I've done. I have all these decks and I can't take them on the plane with me. I don't know what to do with them. And I'm not even using them. They're pretty expensive. They're pretty decks, super expensive, but they're sitting on my shelf. And what good is that to pull off and look at for a while? I've started to evolve my opinion about that for myself personally. I don't knock anyone who collects just simply for the beauty of the decks, because some of us don't even read tarot or read the oracle or read any cards. We just simply collect because we like beautiful pieces of art. But me, I'm a reader, and I came to the cards to read the cards for other people. So it doesn't always make sense for me just to get decks because they're pretty. I don't really have the space, and I really don't have the space now that I've downsized from a 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom condo. I don't know. Don't have the space. Let's see. So yeah, my once well-organized spreadsheet and decks, and they were all in their little homes. They're now not organized. It makes me feel a certain way. Now let's move on to our questions to ponder for this section. Is when I first started collecting, what types of decks was I drawn to? And now that I have been collecting a while, what decks am I drawn to now? And then number 3, how do I support my changing taste? Don't worry, we don't have to do the questions now because of time's sake. And I'm also going to post up, I think I'm going to post these questions so that we have them for later, for the future. I wish I had a moderator. I might be able to quickly type them. I should have thought about that. Ooh, you guys got some good comments. Oh, yes. No judging. That's right. No judging. So I'm going to try to type these out. So again, the first question is basically just thinking about when I first started collecting decks, what type of decks were I actually drawn to? This is an analysis that I'm asking you all to do, and you don't have to do it now. It's an analysis of comparison. When I first started collecting decks, what type of decks was I drawn to? Now that I've been collecting them a while, this is question number 2. What decks am I drawn to now? And number 3, we can do number 3. Let's do number 3 together. How do I support my changing tastes? And yeah, how do I support my changing tastes? If I recognize that my tastes are changing, and they always are, because we're always changing, right? How do I support that? So these questions I will post in different areas, probably in my YouTube when I posted this video up in YouTube, on my Facebook page, in my Facebook group, on my website. You won't miss it. I will have these questions posted. I would type it, but you guys are going to be like, oh my gosh, she's taking forever to type something. I could also show it, but Ooh, let's see what the comments are saying. Oh, let's see. Perfect for overanalyzing Virgo sun like mine. Yes, yes. I worked as an analyst. My manager was a Virgo. And let me tell you about some overanalyzing. I'm like, okay. Like, does she ever stop analyzing? I love it though. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying again for a depth year this year. Thank you for reminding me that my FOMO is not just for the deck, but for the community of people using the same decks and talking about them together. Yes, that's right. I have to decide how much value that has versus sticking to what I absolutely need and have room for. Oh my gosh, that's such a beautiful statement, because the community part, I realize that's what I really love. And I'm starting to figure out ways of being in the tarot groups, and we'll talk about that. I have a little section in my lecture notes for that. But there's still room for us who are not actively adding to our collection. We have value to add in terms of, hey, we might have the deck that somebody's inquiring about, or hey, we can give some information, and we can share it and I call it fellowship with one another over the love of cards. So I just had to start shifting my thinking around that. And I'm still in the process of doing that. We all, we're works in progress. I am not going to judge you, dear one, for your very first decks being Doreen Virtue. Not going to judge, because guess what? My very first deck was the Goddess Guidance Oracle from Doreen Virtue. Still have it. Actually, it was one of the ones that made it with me on the airplane. I know. Don't judge me. Don't judge me now. But yeah. So many angels. Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah. Oh, I love this. Okay. Yes. So Julie mentions that's what she's hoping to do for her channel, to revisit oldies but goodies and reinforce the idea that you don't need all the decks, even though I sometimes still feel that way. And we're going to still feel that way, right? If we're collectors at heart, we're going to still feel that way. But when it is exciting, when I find channels, new channels, big channels, small channels that start to use their decks in new ways. It really reinforces to the community that it's okay to just use the decks we have and to really start to fall in love with those decks. And that's where the magic really happens, not the unboxings and collecting of them all. Now, what do we do with all these decks that we've collected, right? Now let's use them. So yeah. So I'll remember to post these questions later for us to work on and find a way that we can chat about them at a later time. So So let's talk about some of the ways to know when your tastes have changed and what to do about it. And we already talked about tarot Facebook groups, so already covered that. And we talked about how it's tempting, how there's so much temptation that lies there. Just making sure I go through. And of course, I'm not trying to say that tarot groups are bad. They're not. Many of us run tarot groups. Many of us are a part of those communities, and we plan to stay in those communities. They're a great place to be. However, I will say this, we may be in a period where we need some space to sort out what's going on with our taste and collecting habits. And hanging out in some of those groups, not all of them, but some of them, you know which ones they are. Asking for other people's input in those same groups and then lusting after new decks is a surefire way to ignore the inner callings your soul is sending about your deck collection. So give yourself some breathing room from these spaces, just for a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. And if you must be on social media, find other groups or activities to focus on as you sort through your taste changing. Taste changing is not something that's going to be like, forever, right? Once you are aware that it's happening, it's something that is a shift of, you know, and you can move on and move forward. But until you realize what's going on, it may not be best, because what's going to happen is, like Julie mentioned, you're going to want all the decks. I did, and I bought all the decks, and now I can't do that anymore. I have a few additional resources in my course that you can use to help you in determining if your tastes have changed. And some of those things are a deck considerations checklist, some tarot spreads, some title called Are We Still Cool? A tarot and oracle spread, the deck collecting philosophy spread, the Facing My Deck Collecting Habits shadow spread. And I'll share the screen quickly here to show you, if I can. Let me see. I'll show you those spreads because you'll just know they're free. You know, you don't have to pay or anything like that. And if you go, it'll show all the materials here that has that. But lesson 4, which is what we're discussing today, where is that? Where are you? Lesson 4, taste change, right here is where the downloads are. So for example, hopefully this pulls up with no problems, deck considerations. What are some of my deck must-haves? And this evolves. Like I did this little list like last year when I created this course. And now I bet you if I did it again, my deck must-haves are going to be probably a little different than they were last year. And as well as my deck turnoffs. What are my top 5 deck turnoffs? What are my top 5 deck must-haves? What are some of my dream decks that I already own? And I have my dream decks here. You can best believe they're here. Whew, they made it. Barely though, without their little boxes. That's the other thing that's funny too, y'all, is that I have just one crate of tarot boxes because some of them are so big and heavy that I couldn't pack them. Like seriously, my luggage, we pay so much in oh my gosh, what do you call it? Overweight, heavy, large luggage. And I couldn't believe how much my decks weighed in my little metaphysical books. Oh, no, the crystals. I'm sorry, I have to segue for a moment because you guys would appreciate this for those who love crystals. So I'm going through security or through the TSA checkpoint. And they put my bag through my carry-on. And they said, oh, ma'am, can you step aside for a moment? Come over here. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I'm like going on. I'm not nervous because it's just whatever. I'm like, I don't have nothing that's crazy up in there. Go ahead. And they were looking. And finally they went through and they found I had this huge bag of crystals, like this huge sack of crystals that I use on my reading table. And the TSA people were so tickled. They were like, you want to see what caused all the rigmarole? I'm like, yeah, what? And they brought me over to the x-ray and you could see the bag, the mound, and you could see the crystals. And then they said, look, I'm like, and they were so tickled with them. So I'm like, yeah, I know. It's crazy. I'm sorry. It tickles my soul because I'm like, I gave them a chuckle at 11 o'clock at night, but I was like, no, it's good. It's all good. But yeah, my luggage was hella heavy. All right, so that's one resource. Are we still cool tarot spread? So I asked this question, or I use this spread when I am, how do I say this? When it's time for a deck to potentially move on, or if I haven't used a deck in a while and I'm like, should you move on? What's happening here? I haven't used you in a year. What's going on? So I'll have this spread here that you all can check out. It has some questions like, what have I gained from our relationship? Is there anything else to gain from it? And if so, what? Is it time for you to move on to a new home? And if so, when? I am a reader that loves to look at timing. If you're not someone who's into looking at timing, you don't have to ask this question. You could throw this question out. But then the next 2 questions will help you with timing if you want to do timing, but you're still kind of like, I can't look at the tarot cards and tell timing. So that's that spread. Let's move on to the next one. Here's another one, deck collecting philosophy spread. Oh, this is super large. I gotta figure out how to shrink it. What's the overall energy of my current collection? How large is my collection meant to be? And so you're starting to catch the drift, right? And then this is my favorite one. Facing my deck collecting habit shadow spread. Come on, download, hurry. Oh, you want to be difficult, whatever. So yeah, facing my deck collecting habits shadow spread. So you can imagine, I don't know why it's taking forever to download, but that's okay, we don't need it. So I'll stop sharing. Okay, I'm taking a look at the comments here. Oh, you guys got some good stuff. You guys, Julie laughed at me and my crystals. Have any, okay, so you guys have your chat going on. I'll look at those in a moment. I'm gonna keep moving. So some bulleted points to let you know when your tastes have changed. You'll know when, A, you have started online window, I call it window shopping. That's what I used to do in the night. When I couldn't sleep, I'm like, well, you know what I can do? I can get my cell phone and just kind of flip through, where's my phone? And flip through and see, that's me window shopping. So you start online window shopping for new decks in hopes of finding something to settle the restlessness that's starting to set in. Number 2, the decks that once spoke to you are beginning to give you flat readings. And what I mean by that is that I get intuitively sometimes feel when a reading's not giving me my like giving it its all, and I don't even know. Oh, maybe some of you guys know what I'm talking about. The readings just feel flat, and I am bored with the deck, and I'm just, and even when I do a reading with it, I'm like, it's not singing to me. I don't even know how to describe it. It's an intuitive thing. It might just be a Kim thing. Who knows? But they just give flat readings. Number 3, you feel guilty for desiring and buying new decks while several decks sit on your shelf, but you still are buying the decks. And so that for me are those 3 main telltale signs that you are probably going through a shift in your taste, and that it's maybe time to look closer to it, do a couple of spreads, meditate on it, sit on it for a minute. Look at your collection, actually look at it, go through the cards, pull them off the shelf one Saturday afternoon, look at them, see how you feel about them when they're out, use them in a reading. What kind of readings are they giving you? So that's just some ways to know your taste have changed. And here are some tips on what to do when you start to notice that phenomenon happening. So if you have a collection already, some of you may not who are watching this, if you have a collection, shop the decks that you've already have. Shop, and I mean, and I'm doing quotation, shop the decks you already have in your collection. I started doing that during my depth year, and it was fun because I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this deck. It might as well still have the wrapping on it. I opened it once for the unboxing, and it just sat here, and it's like new. And so that's why I'm kind of excited for when my decks finally make it here, because I'm going to be like, it's like Christmas in June. Consider deck trades, and our lovely Jennifer King, she is what do you call a moderator and admin, and she runs one of the top tarot or deck, it's not just tarot, tarot trade sell groups that I feel comfortable transacting on. And there's, others, I'm sure, but that's one that I feel comfortable transacting on. So consider some deck trades. You don't even have to do it there in Facebook. You can do it with friends. I've done it with a couple of friends, in town. Well, I would say in town, not in California anymore. But deck trades are a great way to kind of scratch that itch, if you will, and to probably stumble upon a deck that actually is now more in alignment with your current tastes of where your tastes are going. Sell some decks to make room for new ones to be added to your collection. That's a given, obviously trading and also selling decks. And that's exciting too. Lord knows, there was one time last year, I'm just selling decks, and just as fast as I'm selling them, I'm adding more to replace them, whether they were being gifted to me or me buying them or making them or whatever I was doing. But the idea though, is to sell some to make room for decks that are now in alignment with where your tastes are now. Conduct an interview using the Are We Still Cool spread. You know, just ask a particular deck, are we still cool? And I've actually had some decks like a Santa Muerte. I end up moving on and passing along because I did that spread like 2 times. I think it was like 2 solid times. And each time it came up, it was like, girl, this deck don't want to be here and you ain't been using it. So it's time to move it on to someone who would appreciate it. And finally, make peace with the fact that your taste may have changed. Simple as that. And it's not a bad thing. It's actually, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing. It's just marking your evolution. And of course, questions to ponder, and I will include these somewhere else later. What are some additional ways you can tell your tastes have changed? And you can put those in the comments. And if we have like a minute, I'll go through those. How do you know when your tastes have changed? Do you have some telltale ways to know? And if you share them, that's great, because then I'm going to figure out a way to share these as well, because it just helps others. What are some additional things you can think of that you can do to help when your tastes have changed, to help alleviate that, or to help you get some relief, so to speak? And have you tried the Are We Still Cool spread? And if so, what were some of the results that you got from that, doing that spread? And then finally, as we got just a few more minutes, why is any of this important? Well, you know, tastes change because we are not stagnant, nor are our tastes. And our tastes are designed to represent the stage of life that we find ourselves in. Growth is happening all the time. And you have to ask yourself, are we leaning into that growth, or are we resisting that growth, right? Sometimes it's literally just taking time to have awareness, like in the form of this course or this lecture, or just chatting with each other about this. To make us see that we may or may not be in harmony or out of harmony with our highest good. And, you know, we just have to ask ourselves what process that we find ourselves in. And it's so important to not beat ourselves up. Don't beat yourself up. Don't, like they said, like we said, this is a no judging zone. This is not for judging. And I know there are some people who be like, oh my gosh, you know, there's this one person, you know, in the group, the Facebook group, well, I only have one deck and I've just used that one deck for 25 years. And then over here, the rest of us, like some of us who might have like 1,000 decks, we might be thinking, okay, you know, no judgments here. We're each individuals. We come to this world with our own tastes, our own needs, our own reading habits. So yeah, there's no judgments. And I'm hoping that just by talking about taste changing, it really helps give people some peace, new and seasoned collectors. And yeah, let's see. I wanted to just have a minute or two. I want to make sure I covered everything. So what I'll say is this: use this your taste changing as an opportunity to shift your collection closer to the one that makes you so happy. All that you want to do is play with your cards and read for people. To me, nothing is more sad than a collector who has a bunch of decks that they don't want to touch in their collection. Try not to be that collector. Be the reader and collector who is not afraid to shift gears and have fun with it. I had to surrender where my collection is at right now. I just had to surrender and just be like, this is where it's at. This is where I'm at. It's splintered. But the ones that I'm working with right now are here with me, and that's all that counts. And Yeah, questions to ponder. Again, I'm going to leave these somewhere for us to ponder these later. It's what process are you in with collecting your decks? Number one. And number two, why is it important for you to recognize, for you, not for anybody else, but for you to recognize when your tastes have changed? So I will definitely leave our questions to ponder because they're almost like spreads. They're almost like little spreads you could do, or just one or two card draws when you feel inspired to journal about it. I want people to really start being more conscious collectors, if you will. Save yourself some money if you can. Save yourself some heartache. Save yourself some grief when it's time to move, let me tell you. So, do we have any questions before we conclude and wrap up today? Let's see. I'm just going through the comments here, the chat. Yeah, trading is fun. Trading is actually a lot of fun. Actually, you guys have a lot of good comments. I wish I could. Oh, can I say this? Oh, I can. I think I can. Uh-oh. Sorry, I was like, oh, I can save the chat. That's awesome. Let's see. I'm just going through the comments. Don't mind me, you all. Yeah, so deck trades, give those a try this year because it is so much fun. Sometimes some people feel like it's a hassle, but now I don't. And now I'm gonna have to find, I did find one tarot card lover on the island. So I might have someone I can trade with there. So, all right, let's see. Okay, yes. And Julie says, I did begin a spreadsheet based on my wish list lecture and plan to add a column for rehoming. It's a good idea. It's a good idea to track that because if ever that deck comes up in your world again, and I've had that happen, I'm like, didn't I own that deck one time? What happened to it? What happened? I don't know. And it's just interesting. I'm an analyst. I was an analyst by trade for a while, so I'm always analyzing. Yes. Yeah. Yep. And I've never regretted trading or selling a deck. Me neither. Me neither. Even gifting them, even the decks that I've given, no regrets. Yes. Oh, tiny trinkets and tarot. I'm looking always for suggestions for content since I don't have a lot of unboxings to do. I would love to do a live for when the decks that arrive. I cannot wait, y'all. That's going to be a celebration because first of all, I've been filling out paperwork, trying to like speak in Spanish, like trying to explain the situation, why I got so many decks. They probably thinking I'm over here trying to, I don't know what they think I'm trying to do. Sell a bunch of decks wholesale. I don't know. It's lost in translation. So it will be a video of some sort of me trying to get my decks. Yes. I started a spreadsheet. Yes. Okay. I love having lists. Lists are good because it's just easy. It's just interesting to see over time as you start to add to it and that information that starts to be gleaned from it. And it comes in handy later. I'm such a proponent of tracking your decks, especially if you collect, even if you collect mass market decks, you never know when that deck might become out of print later and become some high dollar deck. And if you have a homeowner's or insurance policy, a lot of times you can get a very cheap endorsement on that policy to insure your decks. Or even if you didn't, if something happened to your collection, you can file a claim for those. So that's just practical stuff. But it's just interesting the day-to-day to just be able to consult your list when you need to. And I'm always adding a column for there's always some more information I want to track. All right. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. Conscious collector, that's what we're going for. We're going to be conscious collectors this year, you guys. And I think we are off to a good start. I see you all in the groups. You all are so just supportive and amazing. I always brag to anyone who will listen. I'm like, I am a part of the best community ever. I went to a writer circle on Friday. And I was gushing to them about like, well, no, my husband had mentioned to them, and I'm like, oh, she's like, she's a tarot reader. And she loves when she gets a deck from a friend out of the mail. And he's explaining that. And I'm like, You don't understand, y'all. I know what he's trying to say, but I'm a part of the best community ever. We are tight knit, even though we're across the globe. We all are, we all kind of think the same, and we're super kind people because we're givers, right? If you're a reader, or reading for yourself or for friends, or not even professionally, you're still a giving kind of person. So I'm just always in deep gratitude for being in company with such awesome people. All right. Let me see, just making sure. You are so welcome. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for taking time out of your Tuesday to come on this journey with me today. You made it so much fun. I'm so grateful. And yeah, I will be doing another lecture, I'm sure, very soon. So stay tuned. There will be another one coming. And yeah, so much love. Many blessings to each of you. And I'll see you around in the Facebook group.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.